I have some clients and some students and some teachers. Sometimes they ask me a question that can seem tricky. Is that I went to a masterclass, to a workshop with XY, and he told me to do some kind of things, and the other one told me he has results, and he asked me to do the opposite. And we can find those kind of different gesture and different kind of asking gesture around the world in opposite directions, and they all pretend to work on voice and to be correct. Are they really all wrong? Of course not. Can they be all correct? In some sort, yes, but there is no contradiction in their statements. There is no contradiction because we have to understand a fundamental concept that is not that clear, and that it is that the voice is one, of course, and the system voice, it does not work in a linear way. In a linear way meaning that there is no just one gesture working on the voice. When they call and when they ask a gesture, they're calling and they're asking for making attention to this gesture into a system, and usually they work till the system has some precise boundaries and some precise characteristics. Italian bel canto technique, in some sort, it has the most balanced way of working with the different gestures possible into the instruments. It does not contain all, it has not stated those boundaries clearly, but it is the most balanced technique. And that is why I go on relying on that. But at the same time, we have to go on into our knowledge and our comprehension of the instruments. As I say, not one time, and who makes some lessons with me or follows me, knows perfectly, I all the time talk about the opposition of the gestures. This has been one of my first intuition when I started teaching, and probably it was the reason why I had the kind of career I had, even if it was, if you see in my biography, short and why. Then opposition meaning what? There is a base, that it is the body, and it is very important to understand what it is the functional body. And the functional body is the same from any kind of point of view, from an athletic point of view, from a physiotherapy point of view. That's why the talk with Alexander Duret, who is a physiotherapist specialized in some kind of physiotherapy on neurological problems and their consequences on body motion and movements. And that is why I'm studying, and I really counsel you to take the work of Gray Cook. Gray Cook is a huge physiotherapist who has a system based on joints. I didn't have idea what he's preaching, and it's very useful for me too, of course, and for all the people working on the body and its functions. And if you want to follow also Mike Boyle, he does work in strength and conditioning, but from a functional point of view, and he's a very smart one, so always follow smart people to improve and to go on with the knowledge. I was saying our body, it has a structure that has a minimum of functionality for singing that is basically absolutely no way not to have it as a base also for singing. But the functionality will not be enough to sing, because in singing we put in opposition the muscles that breathe out with the muscles that put air in. No, don't try to think about of inhaling while singing, because you will not sing. Because since it's an opposition, we can create conditions to work in contemporary, but you cannot think in contemporary of doing both the actions. Oh, you try. You try, if you can, you write to me, and it would be a huge thing, fantastic. Till now, found nobody who could do that. So the opposition meaning that, basically, the gesture of the singing, what we perceive and what very often we do, It's something that is what will lead to a dysfunction. Meaning by that they can seem dysfunctional gesture. And they are dysfunctional gesture when the functional part is not able to have an effective opposition to the dysfunction. It will create a dysfunction, and normally the dysfunction will be heard of after a certain time where the instrument is fragile. And our instrument is fragile classically and evidently into the vocal cords. That is why my exercises and a lot of work, they don't work exactly where you think you have the problem. They work somewhere else, where the problem starts. So, can we have the nombril going out, going in, going up, remaining stable? Yes, of course. It depends on the style you're singing. It depends how much of that gesture is required into your opposition, and not that you take away the opposition. That is the tricky thing. The tricky thing is thinking that you're doing and your system is doing just what you perceive, or just what you're doing mostly. No. If it is effective, what you're doing mostly is giving the style, is giving the flavor, is giving the rhythm, is giving the groove, is giving the leggerezza, is giving the weight, it is giving the depth of the voice, or it's giving its light. Note, everything is that. The system is working on many other things and taking this opposition if your voice is effective. So what we have to think about technically, to state quite clearly what we have to do and what is required as minimum physiological point of starting. That is why in ancient Italian bel canto technique we used to work 2 or 3 years without pronouncing one word. Why? Because we were creating and reinforcing the physiological patterns and the physiological body and all the physiological, not only relations but also muscular chains. That it is on that my exercises do work. They do work on shaping the instrument from inside in the minimum things that are required to have an opposition for the voice. And a lot of bel canto technique and a lot of the most reliable technique you can find, even if not stated, they are doing that. That is why some physical activities are, how can I say, useful for the voice. Perhaps not precisely on the voice and not focused on the voice, but they're absolutely useful. So think about that when you see a style that you don't approve. Think if you don't approve the style or the use that is done. Think if you don't approve because on someone is taken away the physiology, so it is not effective, and you're not taking care of the physiological part. Or is it the style in itself? That's to say that you can find your style also of technique more appropriate for you, but you can't escape the physiological part. And you can't escape to take care of this physiological part if you want a correct opposition.